Thank you guys for coming. I was in the process of getting everything ready for this week, and I just wanted to start. I can't ignore it. It's also going to dominate the show probably. When I look at what I've gotten written, because I didn't even finish writing, I'm going to have to wing some of this, but because it was just too much to process really for the show. You have to talk about the events of this past week in Charlottesville and the riots and the violence and the ugliness of all of that, and especially the white nationalist terrorist that drove down a crowded alley in his Dodge Charger, injuring 19 people and killing Heather Hayes in that horrible terrorist act. That I don't know why people have a problem saying that. I was really looking forward to saying that part of it so much that I said it twice. I liked calling him a terrorist, and that's exactly what he is. He intended to kill a large group of people over an ideal. Isn't that exactly what a terrorist is? In order to install fear and make you see their way of, that's exactly the textbook example. So why do you have a problem calling him what he is? And there are 9 more Charlottesville type event rallies going on in the near future across the country to protest the removal of these Confederate monuments. Now, as much as I love to see that, these Confederate monuments coming down, this just doesn't, I'm sorry, but this whole thing just doesn't feel organic to me. You know, the speed of it all, it just seems odd. The way it's all playing out. And let me get into why I'm thinking that, because this is why I had difficulty processing the events and the events to come in this madness. There has been a coordinated propaganda effort all across mainstream media ever since Donald Trump won the election. And the reason I think that is that Donald Trump was never supposed to win the election. He wasn't supposed to become president. This wasn't supposed to happen. Before the election, all mainstream media outlets were reporting how bad Hillary was going to defeat Trump. And Trump seemed to also be preparing his "they rigged it against me" speech, which Obama thought was hilarious, by the way, before they actually needed to use that story, which I'm going to get to here in a minute. So they used the full force of their propaganda machine after this happened, even after rigging a primary to try to insert Hillary. But they still lost because of the pesky kid progressives and independents held our ground and didn't back down. It didn't work. And it always works. Their propaganda machine is huge and powerful, and they have always used it to push their agenda and force feed their agenda. And it always works. And I really believe that we scared them. And we scared them with our unity and our power and our numbers and our ability to hold our ground and stick to that issue. And you know, ever since Trump got elected, the propaganda machine has been in high gear, which propaganda is nothing new in our media. It's regular, it's daily, but the coordinated efforts, and what I'm talking about is when you can go through every channel and they all look the same. The little shit going across the bottom, everyone's talking about the same thing. That's what I'm talking about, the coordinated effort. When they're all on the same shit, you know, because most of us should already know that all media is owned by 6 corporations. It's all consolidated. You're getting a narrative. You're only getting 2 flavors of it. It depends on where you go for it. But you're hearing the same things. And when they're all coordinated 24 hours in their 24-hour news cycle on the same thing, like what they are now and what they were with Russia and what they were with North Korea after Russia didn't really stick. And then when enough of us weren't afraid of North Korea, and then also it probably didn't help that China made it clear they didn't have their back. That couldn't have helped things. But after that, they've gone to an old classic. You know, now they're on racism. And I believe that that's what the establishment has resorted to. This just feels like orchestrated civil unrest to me. It reeks of it. If Admiral Akbar from Star Wars was here, he'd be screaming, "It's a trap." You know, it just feels like a trap. It's working. You know, even if it's just a distraction, it's working. We aren't focusing on single payer, living wage, the pipelines. They're still building those and pumping oil through them. And they have us fighting amongst ourselves. We can't even agree whether or not you should punch a Nazi. We're focusing on this. My entire feed is this. You know, and when I went, you go and research the news, every news site is this. Every different angle of it. The only other thing they're talking about today is Steve Bannon, and really that felt orchestrated to me too. That feels like a shitty bone to throw you. Like, okay, Trump apologized. He read the fucking teleprompter. We got him to do it. He got through it. Next day, took it all back. He ruined it. He fucked it up. So here we're going to fire the white supremacist, the white nationalist that, you know, has a history of that everybody's been mad about anyway. We're going to go ahead and fire him and throw you that bone. That's what it felt like to me. Now, maybe they legitimately fired him. People get fired at the Trump administration weekly, right? But it feels like a fucking bone being thrown to me is what it feels like. It's a game. It's working. We're divided. We're distracted. It's working. We're being attacked online as well. As far as our agenda, our progressive movement, Google, Facebook, and YouTube have all come out heavily against left-leaning and independent journalism, suppressing us in search results, feed how many times I'm going to show up in somebody's feed, whether or not my followers will even get an alert that I'm on. And a lot of my people tell me they don't even get notifications to tell them anymore. You know, those kind of things, making sure we're suppressed. They're already doing their best to do that. They're already trying to attack net neutrality. They're already coming after all of these things to try and shut us up, split us up, and take away our power. And I think that they put the gas pedal down on that because we scared them. And I feel that we did that because Donald Trump was never supposed to become president. And us holding our ground is what made that happen. That wasn't supposed to happen. We always fall in line. And we always do what the media tells us to do. And we're not. Enough of us aren't now that it actually mattered. That's what I think happened. And, you know, our unity frightens them. And that was scary to the establishment, to the point that they basically faked a convention and tried to get the media to, they did get the media to completely go along with it and try to pretend it wasn't even going on and that it was just a small faction of crybabies. We've seen what they can do. We've seen how they can change a narrative. We know that they do it. We know that they use it. We know that they're orchestrated together. You know, it's very odd. You'll see the same story worded just slightly differently on 5-6 different channels. Completely different, supposed to be completely different types of networks. But, you know, unity has become a recurring theme on my shows. It's something I talk about a lot, but it's really because it's key. Our strength is in numbers. When we're unified, we're terrifying. But we're broke up in little groups and infighting and bickering, and we're not focused on things, and you know, we're not staying with our eyes on the prize where it needs to be on our big issues and what we want and moving forward, trying to get some election reform and getting single-payer health insurance so that all of our citizens have health care and get a living wage and these kind of things that we want. Instead, they got us fighting on things, and I'm going to explain to you why these are distractions, these rallies, and why it's not even important for us to be there. If you just give me a second, just hang with me just a second, and I'm going to explain to you why I'm saying that. All right, there's 9 more of these rallies, as well as sporadic protests all over the nation about these monuments coming down. And we keep wanting to punch Nazis at these, and it's just going to get really ugly really fast if we keep doing that shit. Now, I don't want that, but that's what they want. I feel that's what they want. I feel that's what they're pushing us towards. I think they're egging us on. You know, it's horrible to see Nazi flags walking down the street, seeing that kind of stuff happen in America. It's awful. It's disgusting. I'm not saying that, so stay with me. But let's ignore them. And they say these guys get permits, etc., so we know where to not be. You know, let them spew their hate to empty streets. Or mock them, make fun of them, but don't go punching Nazis, because that's exactly what they're wanting you to do. I think that they're pushing this forward. You know, these monuments are coming down. The ball's already rolling. Let's just get out of the way and let the ball roll down the hill. Don't get distracted with the Nazis and the white supremacists and the KKK. They're still going to go act a fool, but if they become a problem, let them be the military's problem, the National Guard's problem. They're not our problem. You know, hang back. If you want to be there, mock them just to make sure nothing happens and they don't start busting windows and harassing people. But don't fall into the trap. Don't take the bait. I know that's hard, but this is their death throes. That ideology is dying out. These people are a fraction of a minority. You know, Donald Trump's entire base is not racist. So this is a small fraction of a minority. They're dying out. The fact that these monuments are coming down and this kind of stuff is changing lets you know that. And this is them fighting that. So let them have their little death throes. Don't egg it on. It's bad enough they're walking down the streets in protest with AR-15s and the cops are standing down. You know, and then you've got people, they're going to start painting Antifa as terrorists. They might not have started doing it now, but it would be very easy for them to use this civil unrest. They could easily call this civil unrest and force it over the line, is what I'm trying to say. I feel like they're pushing it forward. And honestly, they say a lot of these guys at the Nazi rallies showed up in vans, 12 white vans. That shit sounds a lot like the stuff that went on during the Bernie protests. And those people were always troublemakers, and that's what got off these vans. I think that's where these people came from with the helmets and the brown outfits, the padded outfits that were looking for a fight. But, I'm just saying, it feels like a trap to me. I think that the ball is rolling, the monuments are coming down. If that's what, that's what we're wanting to happen right now, right? That's going to happen whether we go to their protest or not. If you let them go cry. I saw a lot of people giving Tina Fey shit about her skit on Weekend Update, which I can't even believe because it's a comedy show. But people were upset because she was saying to eat cake. I think it was clear she was joking, but she also got a lot of jabs in. She got jabs in about Standing Rock and how these guys are walking around like that when we saw what happens to peaceful protesters at Standing Rock. That got said during mainstream television. So that's good. She snuck a couple things in while she was eating that cake. It wasn't all bullshit, but she basically said to eat cake. Same thing. Ignore them. Sit home and eat a sheet cake. I don't care. If you want to do that, attack a whole sheet cake. That's what she said to do. I'm just saying ignore them. We should have a festival somewhere else, get our own permit on the other side of town, and have a peace festival. And let them have their little hate festival. Because I think we're walking into a trap. We're getting ourselves set up to fail here. You fight violence, their violence with violence when I don't think we really have to, which is what I think is hilarious when a lot of these people in these militia groups will talk about their civil war. They act like they're going to be fighting liberals. You'll be fighting the military. If you start a war in the United States, on United States soil, and you start firing your weapons and shit, they're going to send in the military and the National Guard. That's who you're going to fight. You're not going to fight me. So your shit that you spew about how, you better pack up on guns. I got a lot of guns and you ain't got shit. All you liberals are pussies. A, I'm not, and B, I'm not going to be the one fighting you. You start that kind of stuff, they'll have to turn the military on you. But then I think they would initiate martial law. And then really a lot of the things, this is why I had trouble preparing for this show, because a lot of what I want to say, people think you're crazy when you talk like that. But this feels like you're an agenda. They're still poking the bear in North Korea. I don't know if you knew that. There's a large military event happening in South Korea, starting next week, the military exercise, war games, where South Korea and 25,000 U.S. troops do some war games preparing for North Korean invasion of South Korea. That's going on next week. I don't see any news organizations really paying that any attention. Kim Jong-un sees it as a threat, and it's a regular thing. They do it regularly to prepare for a threat from North Korea. But you just got done with a nuclear threat. You've got civil unrest going on at home. You're still poking the bear for World War III because China still is, I don't think they've changed their position. Unless Kim Jong-un strikes first, they're not backing it up. So, I don't know. I don't like the way things are looking there. But like I'm saying, you haven't heard nothing about that. You're not hearing about important issues. There's nobody talking about anything but these distractions. And I think that's what they are. There's been awful things too that have happened. And that's terrible. And I think we need to pull back because there's no reason, like I said, this is going away. These monuments are moving into museums where they belong. I don't know why we ever gave out participation trophies for the Civil War to begin with. I actually do know why. It was when the civil rights movement and to protest Jim Crow laws and things like that, they started putting these things up. As kind of a FU is the way I've kind of read it. It's basically right after that, and they try to color history and make them out as heroes. They're traitors. They tried to overthrow the United States government, right? They wanted to overthrow the United States. Isn't that literally the definition of a traitor? They were an invading army. They're from our own soil, but they're still an invading army, right? Once you decide to become a nation and invade, aren't you now an invading army? That's the way I see it. I never understood why we were celebrating these people to begin with. There's no reason for that. And you want, if you want to preserve history, which I think is important, preserve it, put it in museums where it belongs, because you don't see statues of Adolf Hitler and Nazi leaders and SS officers in Germany. They don't celebrate that stuff. Why are we celebrating that awful, it was an awful part of our history. It's a part of our history, yes. You want to remember your history or you're doomed to repeat it, yes. But we don't need to celebrate it. There's no reason why it should be celebrated. I've never understood that. So from either side, even if we weren't talking about the issues that the Civil War was fought over, even if it was just a war, I don't understand treating the traitorous side like heroes. I don't get it. So I would think they're traitors, and that's just the end of it. But something else I wanted to talk about, let's see here. I talked about Steve Bannon. Oh, the NFL, there's a boycott being orchestrated, an NFL boycott. And I wanted to look into this more and give their website. But there is a group of pastors trying to start a boycott of the NFL. Well, they're not trying to start. They have started a boycott of the NFL. And it's called NFL Blackout. And it sounds like a really cool program. You're basically pledging to black out the NFL because they blacked out Colin Kaepernick. No one signed him because of what he did, because he took a stand and took a knee for the Black Lives Matter movement and to bring exposure to that movement in the most peaceful way that I think he could think of. He took a knee during a song. And because of that, he lost everything and no team will touch him. And so they want to show the NFL in the only way that they'll understand, which is through their pocketbook and through their money, that the fans are not going to stand for this. And we're not going to support an organization that lets, murderers and rapists and, abusers and, people that have drive drunk, all kinds of things, beat their girlfriends. All these guys, they look the other way. But if you take a knee and take a stand for something that matters, they don't want no party. You won't nobody touch you. They'll push you down and try to ruin you. So we shouldn't support that organization. We shouldn't give any money to the NFL. You shouldn't watch the games. And that's what this is about, this NFL blackout. So if you want to pledge that, go ahead and do that. I think it's a good cause, and I think it's the only thing that the NFL or any one of power, in the business industry at all, is ever going to understand. Same with products. If you want them to understand you, you don't buy them. You don't support them. End of it. They'll have to straighten up. They'll have to perform in a capitalist society or die. That's just the way it is. So that's the only way to fight them, really, and it's the only thing they understand. The other thing I wanted to touch on, and this is a softie, this will just take us into audience participation, a softie story. The solar eclipse that's coming up on, Monday, 21st? Yeah. Remember to bring your pets inside and protect them. I read an article on this, and I don't know why it hadn't occurred to me, but I'm glad I saw this, because I'm even going to bring my cat inside, because the same thing can happen to them that can happen to you if you were to look at it. They can get damage to their eyes as well. So remember to bring your pets inside. I just wanted to give that out as a reminder that I thought was important, and as a soft piece to take us into audience participation. So watch out for your pet's eyes during the solar eclipse. And I still got to get a viewfinder for that, or glasses or something. I'm sure they're selling them everywhere. I live in Missouri, so I'm going to be in the totality path. So I'm excited about that. Let me look here and see what you guys have been talking about, because I have been looking at a different camera. So now let me go through my comments, because I am done rambling on. Let me see what you guys have been saying. Oh, I can scroll up? Oh. Lawrence said, just when we were working against the deep state. Paul says Sean is woke as fuck. Plus, they are a prime example of corporatists. I wish I could scroll up. I don't know why it's not letting me do that. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that either, Paul. I'm so glad I saw that, because my dog stays inside most of the time anyway. And but I wouldn't have thought about it. If she was outside with me, it probably wouldn't have crossed my mind. I might have thought, I hadn't even considered that their eyes would be damaged by it. But they say they can hurt your animal's eyes too. So to bring your pets inside, because if they're to stare at it, it can do the same thing to them. But let's see. I wish I could scroll up. But yeah, he's right. Lawrence is right. We were focused We were all eyes on the prize when we came out of well, it's kind of impressive that we stayed that way after the primaries. We didn't fully stay that way, but we stayed that way enough. Even the ones of us that were angered and splintered, it still was effective enough to derail the Hillary insertion of Hillary. And I really believe that that was not supposed to happen. And that's how we got Donald Trump. And I think that's when the full force of the propaganda came after us with Russia and then North Korea. And now racism is being used against us. But I just think we need to rise above this as well. Same we did with Russia and same we did with North Korea. Keep moving forward towards these things we all need. We're not going to go backwards in time. We all know that. You know, deep down we know that. Even though it's making you angry to see these people feel empowered. Donald Trump's presidency is dead. It's on the rails. I mean, he's got no support. He's ostracizing everybody, his attorney general, members of Congress, the Senate. Everyone's turning on him. And even if he had to fire Steve Bannon, if they told him to throw us a bone, it's just, that's what everyone that he brought on board almost. Kellyanne Conway still needs to go, and who else is still there from the beginning? Oh, the deep state thought we would go back to sleep after the primary. Absolutely. Yeah, and then, you know, then they thought okay, they're still pouting, but they'll vote for her because they don't want him. We scared them good enough. They put on a huge propaganda push to push Hillary through. And in every channel, she's up by so much. She's going to trounce him. They overplayed their hand is what they did because we held our ground. And when we did that, we threw their plans off the rails. And I don't think Donald Trump ever expected to win. I don't think he wanted to win. I think he's hated it from the moment he got in there. Maybe for a minute he thought he would, okay, I'm going to try to do this. But when so you saw what happened when he tried to make good relations with Russia. They straightened that shit out right away. They're like, nope, you're not president, dude. Now he's on board. He just seems weak to me and defeated. He seems like somebody that wants to quit. I don't think he ever wanted it. But that's just my one guy's opinion. I think it's an informed opinion, and I think that scared them. And I think they really, really, really need to make sure they separate us, because I think of the power that we're getting as more people wake up and more people realize what's going on, and we start to get better at uniting through social media and other means of organizing that we've come up with, you know, as we started to grow our movement. It's too much. It's getting too big and powerful to stop now. And I think it's scaring them, and I think that's why they're throwing on so much propaganda. And I think that's why right now they're race baiting us to get us to try and come out and fight and punch a Nazi. I just think it's a trap. It feels like a trap to me. It just really does. And not to mention, these guys are walking around with semi-automatic weapons, coming looking for a fight, wearing armor and helmets. And, you know, it's just ugly. And I know I saw a story. I was about to say something about how, you know, the Antifa is going to be there. They're going to still do that. But I don't know anything about that, honestly. And I have a lot of questions about that as well. And if anyone's here or watches this later that knows if that's even got any legitimacy to it, because are they just against fascism? You know what I mean? Is that all it is? Is it that simple? Is everyone that's against it, is it like Anonymous, that little hacker group? Is it like that? If you're against fascism and you're willing to defend yourself, does that make you Antifa? Or you join a group? Is there a button and a pin and a membership? Does anybody know? I've been seeing this so much, and you saw it a lot during the primaries with the protests there. But, you know, I don't know. I guess I never gave it much thought. And now, until now, I'm looking at it because I'm seeing this and it's looking like it's going to turn ugly. And I'm like, do I support this or not? And I feel like it feels like a trap. It feels like a waste of our energy because I think the ball is already in motion. You know, we're not going to go backwards on civil rights. These hateful people, they're in their death throes, I really believe. And that's what you're seeing, is them trying to fight back at the death of their ignorance and their ignorant culture and our society's last embraces of it with these monuments and all of this that's now coming down. I think the ball's already rolling, and we don't need to be out there punching Nazis. I think we're walking into a trap with that. And I don't think they need excuses to be able to insert martial law. I don't want to push us in that direction. I mean, where do you think this would be heading? Like I'm saying, these dumbasses are walking around with semi-automatic weapons, looking for fights. And yes, okay, you're brave. I appreciate that. And thank you for defending people. But if you got Antifa there punching them and they decide to shoot, and how fast can this get super ugly? How fast did it already get ugly? That guy meant to kill a lot more people than Heather. And he got her, unfortunately, but he meant to get a lot more. He went down that alley with murder on his mind. I don't know. I think it's a very dangerous situation. It feels like it's orchestrated, not orchestrated, but magnified and pushed. You only got to push it a little bit. When you fall back on this one's their old favorite. It's their old standard, your old reliable. But I really think that it's a trap. I think it's a distraction as well. We need to focus on what's really important. What we really need to do is move forward and unite and stay together. And I'm open to any views on how to do that, because we seem to keep getting splintered. And I hope that that's just what I'm seeing and not really statistically true. But it seems like we just keep getting further divided. And that's bad. That's dangerous. If we allow that to happen, then we're going to be weak. Like I say, our power's in our unity, and that's key. And we have the numbers and the strength to get the things we want, the things that we need. And we need to move forward and do that and keep our eyes on the important things. We need to get election reform, single-payer health care, living wage, stop these pipelines, protect the environment, bring logic and reason to society, and make sure that that's what's the driving force and drive the progressive. We always try to progress. We should always be trying to move forward, never backwards. But that's not what they want, and I think we scared them, and they know that it's getting past the tipping point, I feel. If we were actually able to organize and really come together, I think it's past the tipping point. I think that scares them, and they need to break us up and distract us and divide us. And that's what's going on. But is anybody else talking? I'm not seeing any comments come over. I don't know why I can't scroll up either. I don't know. I have more computer problems, I swear. I'm the worst at figuring out how to do this stuff with the computer. But this is the time of the show where you guys talk. We can talk about whatever you want. Another thing I didn't touch on because of time, and also because I didn't get to research it enough, because like I said, I was writing all the way up until we went on the air almost, but trying to figure out how to form this thought I had going on in my head of what this looks like to me, which is a trap. But there was a terror attack in Barcelona, and I know that there was fatalities and a lot of people injured, but a person, I believe, drove into a crowd and then shot people as well. Kind of similar to the Charleston attack, other than the fact that he also shot people. But I didn't get to research that one and look into it, so I didn't touch on it in the show. But I just wanted to mention that had also happened while we're waiting, because I want to give people time to talk. I hope it's not. If you guys are commenting, I want you to know that the last comment I'm seeing is the deep state thought we would go back to sleep after the primary, which is true. And they did think that. And I'm glad that we didn't. But we have allowed ourselves to be splintered. The propaganda has worked to a degree. I'm still arguing with people about Russia. As unbelievable as that is, there are still people that throw that up at you. You'll still see it come up in arguments. As unreal as that is, there are still people that believe Russia had something to do with rigging our election, which I think is complete bullshit. But I still hear it. I still hear Hillary's name, which I can't believe that anybody's still talking about her. And I can't believe that with the DNC lawsuit and everything that's been disclosed from the DNC lawsuit, the WikiLeaks, the primaries, everything everyone saw, I can't believe everyone's not outraged that it should have been Bernie Sanders running against Trump and that anybody's even talking about Hillary at all. That doesn't make any sense to me. You should be mad that Bernie Sanders should have ran against Trump and would have beat Trump. That's the issue that should bother you, because now it's proven fact that they rigged the Democratic primary. So why isn't that what you're concerned about? Why am I still even hearing about how we should have Hillary or how you should have voted for Hillary? Why is Hillary even being talked about anymore? But propaganda, it gets through, it breaks through people. And it's hard to be mad at them because it's very effective, but you just got to keep trying. You know, it's hard not to get frustrated, but you gotta keep trying, just fighting the propaganda with logic and reason best you can, because CNN, mainstream media, all the channels, Fox, etc., name it off, choose whatever channel you like, is telling them lies all day. Very flashy and pretty and fancy, and everybody, they're really well spoken when they say it. They read off teleprompters a whole lot better than I do, and they're effective, and they're trained, and they know what they're doing. They have a very strong and powerful propaganda machine. Okay. 19 dead, 45 injured, Politics and Stuff says. That's in Barcelona. Look out for Venezuela propaganda. They have tapped into 750 trillion ton oil reserve. My guess is Venezuela might soon need freedom. You're right, Paul. That's what happens. That's how come we deliver it. It has nothing to do with what they tell you it has to do. It has to do with greed, oil, and drugs usually. You know, or Afghanistan, there's a lot of minerals there as well. It has to do with that a lot now too, because cell phones and things like that, the minerals they need for those. But that's what it has to do with, greed, money, and oil usually. Look out for U.S. backing of Syria now that we have oil closer to home. Or backing out of Syria now that we have oil closer to home. Yeah, that would be true. That is a lot of oil. Yeah, that's going to interest them. I had not even heard that. But yeah, that's how they'll do it. You know, they'll have it convinced that Venezuela's, for some reason, we have to go there. Have you heard anything about Venezuela up to this point? Is that a name that's thrown around at all? So if you start hearing that, remember you heard it here first. That was Paul there. I hadn't heard that tip. I can't take credit for it. All right, look out for U.S. Oh, that's the same comment. I thought I had another one. I got excited. They started to come fast. I got excited, but yeah, I hadn't heard that about Venezuela. That's crazy. See? So much madness. It's so hard to find actual news stories. That's one of the harder things about researching things that I actually want to talk about. Because like that war game in South Korea, I had to look really hard to find that. You got to really dig. Find something you actually care about. I found like a lot of pages like U.S. News, there was like 3 different versions of the Steve Bannon story on the front page. Like 3 different angles or whatever. Why is that necessary? Now, let me just briefly touch back on what I was saying earlier. My main point of the show tonight was that I think this is a distraction, and I think that it might be tempting to want to go and punch a Nazi and do all of that, but I think it's more effective if we ignore them or mock them, but not to fall into their trap of using violence against violence and hate against hate. I think love is more powerful against hate, and it also fucks with their head. You know, somebody's trying to be hateful to you and you won't let them do it, and you won't play into it, and you won't buy over to it. And I know that a lot of it's just complete ignorance and you'll never buy them over, but it's harder for them to justify things if we're being peaceful or not even there. If we're somewhere else having a great time, doing whatever. But because I feel like these monuments are coming down, whether we're out there protesting, counter-protesting or not. They're not going to go, oh, okay, everybody went home, so we'll leave the rest of them up. I think the ball's already rolling on that. But people just aren't standing for that stuff anymore. And I think that's why these people are upset. They're seeing their hateful culture lose any power at all and completely shrink up. People came from they're congregating. It's not like that many people were in Virginia. They all went there. I've seen live feeds of these different militia groups traveling around the country. I forget their names. I've seen like three different ones. They all think they're prepared. And what's funny is they all act like they're going to be fighting liberals in this war. You start doing that shit, you start popping off your AR-15s, you're going to fight the military, not me. I mean, something horrible may happen, which I'm saying, don't be there. But you're not going to be fighting liberals. You're going to be fighting the military if you decide to take over the United States. Politics and stuff. Whoever shared that link, thank you. I can't see who's doing that, but thank you for sharing that. So that's for anybody that wants to look into that oil discovery in Venezuela, including me. I will be looking at that right after the show because I am interested in that story, because that does have a need to bring democracy written all over it. It's unfortunate that that's the case, but it is the case. And I think most of us are familiar with that at this point. That's not really new information to most people, I don't think. I think it's pretty clear how America maintains our way of life and keeps our currency afloat and keeps all this going on, which I think is hanging by a thread. I really think America might be in a lot of trouble, honestly. I think that's one of the main reasons why they're pushing so hard towards World War III. Because I just feel like that's where everything's going, especially with China not wanting you to mess with North Korea, Russia being messed with already, and basically the trade war with the sanctions we put on Russia. I think you're squeezing all these people, flirting with Iran. It just feels like war to me. Thank you, Paul, for sharing that. But anybody else got anything that they want to bring up, something I might not have touched on? Maybe some kind of news or some event that is important that you think we need to focus our little attention on and talk about for a minute here before we wrap up? Usually go about an hour if there's people talking. I've already ran my mouth off and did my stories. We talked about the events going on and how I feel like we're being distracted and we need to focus on uniting, which is, I think, the most important thing for us to do is to stay united. Without our unity, we're weak. Broken up into little groups, we're weak. And we need to be strong. We want to get the things we want. We need to be strong. So we need to unite. We need to learn how and figure out how to come together and focus on the large issues like voter reform, election reform, single-payer health insurance, living wage, stopping these pipelines, protecting the environment. The things we need to focus on. We're not going to go backwards in civil rights just because hateful people are walking around with Nazi flags. You know, if anything, they're getting themselves fired from their jobs, which is good. Idiots have taken off their hoods, but, you know, they thought they were safe. I'm seeing a lot of stories about people getting fired, but I don't believe everything I'm told either. So a lot of it could be fake. Like I said, it's a fucking circus. So you got to, everything with a grain of salt, I guess, unless you can completely trust the source. But John, a counter protest in a different location. Yeah, that'd be awesome. How long does it take to get a permit? Like, if you know they're coming, how quickly could you get a permit? With the cities not liking the threat of violence, maybe they would rush it through. I don't know how that would work, but I've never put together a large protest. But some kind of an event, a music festival, anything on another area away from there. And just let them protest to empty streets and spew their hate and vitriol to nobody. I don't know. I just feel like, you know, at best, this has bad news written all over it. It's very easy for this to get ugly, especially with the amount of these people, these moron racists that are coming to these things armed to the teeth, looking for a fight. You know, I don't think it's a good idea, as much fun as you might think it'd be, to go out punching Nazis. I think the best thing to do is to ignore them. You either ignore them or mock them. I don't think meeting them with violence, I think it's going to justify them. Thanks. I changed the background. I'm trying to minimize it. It's still not all one color. I still got to get more black. I got to get some kind of new background, but I got a little camo right there. But I got rid of all the clutter. At first I thought it was eye-catching, and then I was like, there's a lot going on back there. I wish my computer was a little stronger and would run OBS so I could have graphics, but we're gonna move. We're getting along. We're getting along. Fixing the lighting, fixing little problems here and there. Got a better camera. If I could stop smoking on the air, we'd be doing good. I really tried hard. I think I made it about 20 minutes into this show before lighting a cigarette. And I honestly waste a ton of cigarettes doing this show because I'm trying to be aware of dead air. So thanks, Sandy. I tried to simplify it, and then, I usually hide the mic. The mic's been here. It's just I usually hide it. You usually can't see it. But I like it better, and I'm also closer to it, so hopefully that made it sound a little better. Trying to make improvements, little improvements every time. One day you're going to show up here and you're going to be like, this guy's a fucking professional. You'll be like, I remember when this guy was dropping the camera and stuff. He's come a long way, baby. Politics. Paul, actually, it says Fox was broadcasting when in the background 8 brand new buses pulled up in a vacant lot, and they were all given helmets and pads as they exited the buses. I've heard about that. These guys coming in the buses. And then Babas was watching another video of a lot of KKK guys arriving in buses. Then the cops were trying not to let them out of their vans or the buses or whatever they were. They were in another caravan of a lot of these vans. And the cops didn't want them to get out wherever they were. In the video she was watching, they were telling them not to and to disperse. But they were a caravan as well. Now, it could just be organized that way, but it stinks to me. I don't, a lot of these protesters that were causing problems at the Bernie rallies and all those protests in Philly, they got out of large caravans too. Yeah, I saw the Craigslist ads. I saw that. I think it was you that shared it. I think I saw it on Politics and stuff or in the messages, but I believe it was you that I saw it from first. But yeah, I saw the Craigslist ads. There was Craigslist ads hiring paid protesters. Again, $25 an hour. Yeah, Sandy, I mean, how else would they get there but buses and vans? But what Paul's saying is, they're passing out. They're all matching outfits. Like in the one that we were watching, these were the guys that were wearing the polo shirts and the red hats. Yeah, they could have just that's their team colors. I get it. And it's a long trip. These guys came from long distances in order to do this. So she's right. I mean, how else would they get there? But I don't know. The guys that were all dressed to fight and dressed matching with the black helmets and the brown outfits, the padded outfits, that was fishy to me. I thought that looked really suspicious. And I heard a lot about them arriving together and that kind of stuff. Oh, it looks like Sandy and Paul are talking. So I'll let them talk because I lost track of what they're doing. Something about renting buses to go to protest. See, I think the issue is they're just like, weren't they plane vehicles? I don't know. I mean, I don't know that we can prove they're paid, Sandy, but there were ads, Craigslist ads for paid protesters, looking for paid protesters, and then these guys arrived together and seem to be in uniform. It's just suspicious is all. It looks like it. If it smells like a rat and looks like a rat, it's probably a rat. I'm fucking that expression up, but you see what I'm saying, right? I mean, it just there's elements that don't look right to me. But as far as proof, unless Paul knows about proof, I don't have proof. I don't put it past them. You just got to give it a little push. It's something that they've always done. I mean, even to get people smoking, they staged these like events where women pretended they were taking a stand, and they only had to do one. I saw this in a documentary. They only had to do one in one city, and they started happening all over the country. You only got to give it a little push. If they want to do something, just a little push, and I don't put that past them. So for me to imagine that they would pay some people and then equip them and send them on their way to cause trouble is not hard for me to imagine at all. But yeah, they were looking for paid protesters again. And I saw the ads. It's, People always try to discount that stuff, but Paul says in the WikiLeaks 5 months ago described to a T paying protesters is not a conspiracy when they don't hide it. I'm positive some were actual protesters, but not all. Yeah, and there was hidden camera videos too that you watched where people that's their business. You know, they send out these protesters or disruptors to Trump events. They were sending a lot of them to Trump events and things like that. They were used by both sides. It is real. Paid instigators and paid protesters is real. But, you know, and it's something they use. It's a show. And like I was saying, it doesn't take a lot. I mean, they can pay a small group. It's not, the whole group is not paid. You push. You just need a little push, and usually that's enough to sway a crowd. You can instigate violence. You can change momentum of things by having a group has a set agenda to do that, to instigate and push. Just give it a little push, a little shove. That's all it really needs. These people are hateful to begin with. All they need is a little shove. They're already kind of thinking there's going to be violence. They're walking down the street screaming the stuff they're screaming. Look at the people losing their jobs. They don't do this on a daily basis. They usually hide and talk about this in their basements. They're crawling out of their caves now and finding out it's not as cool as they thought it was, just because President Dumbass is in the White House. And I think we need to ignore them. Just let them be stupid. Let the death throes happen. The monuments are coming down because people are allowing themselves to get really scared by this. You know, I've had a lot of arguments on Facebook about it, about how it's such a huge threat and, you know, everything's so terrible. And look how bad people still yelling at me about not voting for Hillary. And look what happened. And they're scaring you. It's a scare tactic. It's not as bad as it looks, for one. And if we don't feed into it, I don't think it does have the potential to get very ugly. It already has, but it has the potential to get uglier, I think. And that's what worries me. I'm worried about that. Yeah. Like I was saying, I think I just basically said something like that, but he said it clearer, that the instigators are paid and told to wear certain items, etc. And that's how you kind of find them in the crowd. That's why I thought that the guys in the brown outfits looked weird to me in the black helmets, but that was my guess. I didn't know Paul's information about the caravan till now, but it fits. That's the kind of thing that they would do. But so let's see. Yeah, and just to wrap up, I think we're falling for a trap here, you know. And I think we need to be the smarter group. We're the smarter group. Let's be the smarter group and use our heads. Like, you defend yourself, absolutely. I'm never going to tell you not to defend yourself, but let's not go looking for trouble. I don't think we should. I mean, I don't think it's going to help our agenda. I think we need to focus on the important issues, and I think we're being distracted right now by this. And I think it's being blown out of proportion by the media and used to scare everybody and get us all divided and worked out. And it could go really bad. It could get ugly fast. But Sandy says, trust me, I know there are a lot of real ones. Yeah. I mean, these guys, there's a lot of, they just need a little push. And that's what these people try to do, is they try to go to these events and these rallies and give it that push. And since I see that going on, and I see the propaganda being laid on real heavy, it's just got me real concerned that this is a trap and we're walking into a trap. It just screams that to me. So I just want us to be smart. Just really, really think about things and try to be the smarter group. We're the smarter group, so let's do that. Let's outsmart them. Yeah, Civil War. You're not fighting us. You'd be fighting the military. You sound ridiculous. Like, okay, you got a lot of guns. Our military does too. It's a very impressive military. We actually police the entire world with it. I'm not bragging on it, but it's huge and it's very impressive. And I don't think no matter how many guns you have at your house or on you even, that you're going to stand up to the military. I don't think for very long at all. It's not going to go well. But the initial thing will be ugly because they will be, at that point, they will be fighting us. But after that, you're fighting the military. It's going to be a really stupid move. Yes, we're very much smarter than them, so let's be smarter. That's all I'm saying. So let me thank everybody for coming and remind you that there's links in the description if you can support the show. Please do that through Patreon or PayPal. And I will see you again next Friday night for another Yankey Show. And she said something that I was flirting with, but I didn't say it. But martial law, yes, if they push this civil unrest far enough, they could install martial law. They would have to. And that's what it seems like it's pushing it towards. Why instigate civil unrest? It seems what they're doing. Just the speed of it all and the media attention and how they seem to be revving it all up and getting everybody excited and scared. I don't like it. And that could happen. That definitely could happen. And we should stay away from the mainstream media events, Paul. We stop playing into it. We just need to just use our heads, stay focused, unite, come together, and we need to be calm and smart. I'm not saying to be a pacifist, just be calm and smart. Let's move forward intelligently, united, and get what we want. Go and take it. It's the only way we're ever going to get it. We go and take it. We use our numbers and we go and take it. We get single-payer health insurance for everybody, living wage, fight these pipelines, protect the environment, everything that's important to us. And we need to start with election reform, I think. Our elections can be manipulated and were rigged, and they are rigged. And we've seen it for ourselves, and we need election reform on a massive scale in this country because we can't vote our way out of a rigged election. But thank you guys a lot for coming. I really appreciate it. Please share, and if you can, support the shows. I'll see you next week right here on Politics and Stuff for another Yankey Show. Thanks again, guys.